Most leaders believe influence comes from authority or sheer force of will. They push harder, demand more, and expect results through an iron fist. This approach, however, often breeds resentment and stifles true potential within teams. It creates a brittle environment that cracks under pressure. What if I told you that the most potent tool for leadership isn't about taking, but about giving? What if cultivating a simple, consistent practice could unlock unprecedented levels of trust, loyalty, and performance from the people you lead? Most leaders dismiss this as soft, fluffy, or irrelevant in the cutthroat world of business. They are fundamentally wrong. The truth is, your perceived strength as a leader might be your greatest weakness. You're likely missing a crucial element, a fundamental building block for lasting success and genuine connection. This missing piece is gratitude, and its absence is costing you more than you can possibly imagine. It's not just about feeling good, it's about achieving tangible, measurable results. Consider this stark reality. A significant percentage of employees worldwide feel disengaged and undervalued at work. They show up, they do the minimum, and they dream of opportunities elsewhere. This isn't a failure of their work ethic. It's often a direct reflection of the leadership they experience. When appreciation is absent, so is motivation. Why does this happen? Because we are wired for connection, and gratitude is the universal language of appreciation. When it's missing, people feel invisible. They feel like cogs in a machine, easily replaceable. This lack of recognition erodes morale, fuels cynicism, and ultimately sabotages the very goals you are striving to achieve. A groundbreaking study published in the Journal of the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry in July of 2025 explored the profound impact of a specific intervention on adolescents during the challenging COVID-19 pandemic. While the participants were young, the principles unearthed are universally applicable to anyone seeking to enhance their mental well-being and their ability to connect with others. This research, conducted by Venturokanurli Ke and her colleagues, provides compelling scientific evidence for what many intuitively feel but few actively cultivate. The study involved a universal, 5-arm randomized controlled trial. Imagine a controlled experiment where different groups of people are introduced to various practices, and their outcomes are meticulously tracked. This wasn't a small, anecdotal observation. It was a robust scientific endeavor designed to isolate the effects of specific interventions. The context of the pandemic added an extra layer of urgency and relevance, as mental health challenges were amplified globally. These researchers were looking at something called the Shamiri intervention. It's a mental wellness program designed to foster resilience and well-being. They wanted to see if this intervention, and even its individual components, could make a real difference in the lives of young people facing unprecedented stress and uncertainty. The stakes were incredibly high, not just for the participants, but for the future of mental health support. What they discovered is nothing short of revolutionary for anyone in a position of influence. One of the core components they tested, and found to be remarkably effective, was the cultivation of gratitude. It wasn't just a side note. It was a central pillar of the intervention that yielded significant positive outcomes. This is where the science begins to illuminate the path for leaders. The study demonstrated that participants who engaged in gratitude practices reported significant improvements in their mental health. They experienced less anxiety and depression. Their overall sense of well-being soared. This is not surprising in itself, but the mechanism by which this happens is what truly fascinates and offers profound implications for leadership. Think about how your brain works. It's constantly scanning for threats and opportunities. When you're focused on what's wrong, what's missing, or what's frustrating, your brain is essentially in a survival mode. This is a natural, evolutionary response. However, for leaders, this hypervigilance can become a crippling habit, leading to a constant state of stress and a focus on problems rather than solutions. Gratitude acts as a powerful recalibrator for your brain. It shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance, from problems to possibilities. When you consciously practice gratitude, you are essentially training your brain to notice the good things, however small they may seem. This isn't about ignoring challenges. It's about building a mental framework that allows you to face them with greater resilience and a more positive outlook. Imagine your mind as a garden. If you only ever focus on the weeds, that's all you'll see. The garden will become overgrown and neglected. But if you also spend time appreciating the vibrant flowers and the sturdy trees, you're nurturing a different kind of growth. Gratitude helps you cultivate the flowers, making your mental garden a more pleasant and productive place to be. The adolescents in the study who actively practiced gratitude began to see their circumstances differently. Instead of dwelling on the limitations imposed by the pandemic, they started noticing the small moments of connection, the acts of kindness, and the opportunities for growth that still existed. This shift in perspective wasn't just a feel-good outcome. It had a tangible impact on their emotional state and their ability to cope. Now let's translate this directly to your role as a leader. When you approach your team with a mindset of scarcity, focusing on what's not being done, what's falling short, or the problems that need fixing, you project an aura of negativity. This is exhausting for everyone involved, including you. It creates an environment where people are afraid to make mistakes and innovation withers. Conversely, when you lead with gratitude, you signal that you see and value the contributions of your team. You acknowledge their efforts, their dedication, and their successes, even amidst challenges. This simple act of expressing appreciation can transform a team's dynamic. It builds psychological safety, encouraging open communication and a willingness to take calculated risks. Consider a leader I recently worked with, Sarah. She was a brilliant strategist but had a reputation for being overly critical and demanding. Her team was highly skilled but perpetually stressed and hesitant to offer new ideas. They feared her sharp critiques more than they desired her praise, which was rare and often felt grudging. Sarah was struggling with declining team morale and a noticeable dip in creative output. She felt like she was constantly pushing a boulder uphill, her efforts met with passive resistance. She was bewildered why her intense focus on performance wasn't yielding better results. She believed that tough feedback was the only way to drive excellence. After implementing a simple gratitude practice, Sarah began to notice a shift. She started by making a conscious effort each morning to identify 3 things she was grateful for within her team. It could be someone's diligent work on a report, another's willingness to help a colleague, or even the simple fact that the team showed up ready to contribute. Initially, this felt unnatural to her. She was so accustomed to identifying flaws and areas for improvement, but she persisted. Then, she started incorporating brief moments of appreciation into her team meetings. Instead of immediately diving into the agenda and the problems, she would take a minute to acknowledge a specific team member's effort or a recent success. The change wasn't instantaneous, but it was palpable. Her team members who had been bracing for criticism found themselves surprised and, frankly, relieved. They started to relax. They began to speak up more freely, sharing ideas without the immediate fear of harsh judgment. The atmosphere in the room shifted from one of apprehension to one of cautious optimism. Within 3 months, Sarah reported a significant increase in voluntary contributions from her team. People were proactively identifying solutions to problems, not just pointing them out. The quality of their work improved, not because she was demanding more, but because they felt seen and valued. Her team's engagement scores, which had been languishing, saw a measurable uptick. This was a direct result of her embracing gratitude as a leadership tool. The science behind this is fascinating. When you express gratitude, you activate certain neural pathways. Your brain releases oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, which fosters feelings of trust and connection. It also releases dopamine, the reward chemical, making the experience feel good and reinforcing the behavior. This creates a positive feedback loop, benefiting both the giver and the receiver. For leaders, this means that by consciously cultivating and expressing gratitude, you are not just making your team feel good. You are fundamentally altering the neurochemical landscape of your team's interactions. You are building stronger bonds, fostering greater trust, and creating an environment where people are more likely to go the extra mile because they want to, not because they have to. The twist here, the part that often surprises people, is that gratitude isn't about being weak or letting standards slip. In fact, the opposite is true. When you lead with genuine appreciation, you create a foundation of trust that allows for more honest and constructive feedback. Your team is more likely to receive your guidance with an open mind because they know your intention is to help them grow, not just to find fault. It's a paradox. By focusing on what is good and what is working, you empower yourself and your team to address what isn't working more effectively. You create a space where vulnerability is seen as strength and where collective effort is celebrated. This is the ultimate leverage for any leader. Now, let's talk about the 3 specific mistakes you have probably made and are likely still making if you haven't intentionally addressed this. The first mistake is believing that gratitude is only for special occasions or for when something extraordinary happens. You might think, I'll thank them when we hit this major milestone, or I'll express appreciation when they finally complete that difficult project. This is a critical error. Gratitude needs to be a consistent, everyday practice, not a rare reward. It's the small, consistent acknowledgments that build the foundation of trust and connection. Waiting for perfection or a grand gesture is like watering a plant only once a year. It will likely wither. The second mistake is confusing gratitude with passive agreement or a lack of high standards. You might be hesitant to express gratitude for fear that it will be interpreted as condoning mediocrity. You think, if I tell them they're doing a good job, they'll stop trying to improve. This is a false dichotomy. True gratitude acknowledges effort and progress, even if the final outcome isn't perfect. It's about recognizing the journey and the dedication, which then motivates them to continue striving for excellence. It's the difference between saying, "Great job on that report, you really captured the key data points," versus saying nothing and waiting for them to produce the definitive, perfect report. The former encourages them to keep working on their reporting skills. The third mistake is making gratitude transactional or conditional. You might express thanks with the unspoken expectation of something in return, or you only offer praise when you need something from someone. This feels disingenuous and erodes trust. Genuine gratitude is freely given, without expectation. It's an expression of genuine appreciation for the person and their contribution, independent of what they can do for you next. When gratitude becomes a tool to manipulate or extract favors, its power is lost, and it can even backfire, creating resentment. So, how do you cultivate this powerful practice? It's simpler than you might think, but it requires conscious effort. Here is the concrete method, narrated as direct instructions, not a list of abstract ideas. This is what you can start doing today. First, commit to noticing. Your mind is likely trained to spot problems. You need to consciously retrain it to spot positives. This means actively looking for what is going well, what people are doing right, and the small acts of kindness or effort that occur every day. Make it a mental game. Every time you feel a flicker of frustration, pause and ask yourself, what is one good thing happening right now, or one good thing someone is doing? Second, express it. Don't just notice it in your head, say it, write it, or gesture it. The most impactful way to express gratitude is directly and specifically. Instead of a generic thanks, try something like, I really appreciate how you stayed late to ensure that client presentation was flawless. Your dedication made a huge difference. The more specific you are, the more genuine it feels and the more impact it has. Third, make it a habit. This is where the consistency comes in. Integrate gratitude into your daily routine. This could be as simple as writing down 3 things you are grateful for each morning before you start your day. Or, it could be making it a point to verbally thank at least one person on your team each day for something specific. Schedule it if you have to, until it becomes second nature. For leaders, this means intentionally weaving appreciation into your team interactions. Start your team meetings with a brief moment of acknowledgement. End your one-on-one conversations by expressing appreciation for something specific. Send a short email or message to an individual or the team highlighting a recent success or effort. The key is to move from a mindset of what's wrong to what's right and how can I acknowledge it. This shift is not about ignoring problems. It's about building a positive foundation that makes addressing those problems more effective and less draining. The scientific evidence from the Venture-Rocanurli et al. Study is clear. Cultivating gratitude leads to significant improvements in mental well-being. For adolescents facing immense pressure, this was a lifeline. For leaders, it's a strategic advantage. It's the difference between a team that grudgingly complies and a team that enthusiastically collaborates. Think about the impact on your own stress levels. When you are constantly focused on problems, your stress hormones are elevated. When you practice gratitude, you shift your brain into a more positive, resilient state. This makes you a calmer, more effective leader, better equipped to handle the inevitable challenges. This is not about being a pushover. It's about being a more intelligent, more effective leader. It's about understanding human psychology and using it to build stronger, more productive relationships. The science is undeniable. The anecdotal evidence is overwhelming. The choice is yours. You can continue to operate from a place of scarcity and constant problem solving, or you can embrace the power of gratitude to transform your leadership, your team, and your own well-being. Here's your single, concrete action for today. Before you go to bed tonight, identify one specific thing that someone on your team did today that you appreciate. It could be as small as them offering a helpful suggestion in a meeting, or as significant as them going above and beyond on a task. Write it down or say it out loud to yourself. Make it specific. For example, instead of "I appreciate John," say, "I appreciate John for stepping up to help Sarah with that urgent request this afternoon." This simple act, repeated consistently, will begin to rewire your brain and transform your leadership approach. It's the first step on a path that leads to greater influence, deeper connection, and more profound success. The real impact, however, lies in what happens next. This is just the beginning of unlocking your true leadership potential. It's one thing to talk about gratitude as a concept, and it's another entirely to see it in action, to witness its transformative power firsthand. I want to share a story with you about a leader named Sarah. Sarah was managing a team of 23 software developers at a fast-growing tech startup. The pressure was immense, deadlines were tight, and the market was incredibly competitive. Her team was talented, no doubt, but they were also stressed, often working late nights and weekends. Morale was starting to dip, and the usual energetic buzz of innovation was being replaced by a quiet hum of exhaustion. Sarah felt this pressure acutely. She was constantly putting out fires, addressing bugs, and trying to keep everyone focused on the next critical deliverable. Her days were a blur of problem solving, and she often found herself dwelling on what wasn't getting done, or what wasn't perfect. She'd always considered herself a good manager, fair and results-oriented, but she was starting to feel like she was just pushing a boulder uphill, and the team was feeling the strain too. One particularly challenging week, a major project hit a significant roadblock. A critical piece of code developed by one of her senior engineers, Mark, contained a subtle but pervasive bug that threatened to derail their entire release schedule. The pressure was on, and Sarah felt the familiar wave of anxiety wash over her. She called Mark into her office, expecting a tense conversation. She braced herself for the difficult discussions about delays and potential rework. As she sat down, Sarah took a deep breath. She remembered a recent conversation she'd had with a mentor about the importance of acknowledging effort, not just outcomes. Instead of immediately launching into the problem, she started differently. "Mark," she began, her voice calm, "before we dive into the technical details of this issue, I wanted to express my sincere appreciation for the incredible amount of work you've put into this module over the past few months. I know how much dedication and skill you've poured into this, and I truly value your commitment to getting it right." Mark looked surprised. He had been anticipating a reprimand or at least a stern lecture about the bug. Instead, he heard genuine appreciation. He visibly relaxed, and a small smile touched his lips. "Thank you, Sarah," he said, his voice softer than usual. "I've been really invested in this, and it's been tough seeing it hit this snag." This small shift in approach completely changed the tenor of their conversation. Instead of defensiveness, there was openness. Mark, feeling seen and valued, was more willing to collaborate on finding a solution. He explained the complexity of the bug, not as an excuse but as a shared challenge. Sarah, in turn, listened more attentively, understanding the intricate nature of his work. Together, they brainstormed potential fixes. The resolution to this specific problem wasn't instantaneous, but the dynamic had fundamentally shifted. Mark, energized by Sarah's unexpected appreciation, approached the debugging process with renewed vigor. He stayed late that night, not out of obligation, but out of a desire to solve the puzzle and prove Sarah's faith in him was well placed. He discovered a nuanced interaction between two seemingly unrelated components, a flaw that would have been incredibly difficult to spot under normal stress. The bug was fixed, the project stayed on track, but the real measurable result wasn't just about that one release. Sarah continued this practice. She started making it a point to acknowledge specific contributions, not just at times of crisis, but throughout the week. She'd send a quick message to someone for a thoughtful suggestion in a meeting, or thank a junior developer for patiently explaining a concept to a new team member. She began her team meetings by highlighting a recent success or a particularly strong effort from someone on the team, before diving into the agenda. The impact was palpable. Team members started to feel more connected and valued. The subtle shift in Sarah's demeanor, from perpetually stressed problem solver to appreciative leader, began to permeate the entire team. People became more willing to help each other, to share knowledge, and to go the extra mile, not because they were asked, but because they felt a sense of belonging and recognition. Productivity saw a steady increase, and crucially, the team's stress levels visibly decreased. Turnover, which had been a quiet concern, also began to decline. Sarah's team started to be known not just for their technical prowess, but for their positive and collaborative spirit. Now, let's delve into the fascinating mechanism behind this. How does gratitude actually work its magic? Imagine your brain is like a meticulously organized library, filled with countless books representing your thoughts, memories, and beliefs. When you're constantly focused on problems, on what's wrong or missing, it's like you're always reaching for the books in the challenge or deficit section. These books are heavy, often filled with dark ink and somber narratives. Every time you pick one up, you reinforce those pathways in your brain. You become more adept at spotting problems, more attuned to negativity, and your internal dialogue becomes dominated by these themes. Gratitude, however, introduces a completely different kind of book into your library. It's like discovering a hidden section filled with vibrant, illuminated manuscripts. These books are about appreciation, about positive experiences, about the good things that have happened. When you consciously choose to practice gratitude, You start actively seeking out these illuminated manuscripts. You're not just passively finding them, you're intentionally pulling them off the shelves. Each time you do this, you're not just reading the book, you're creating a new, more robust pathway to that section of your library. Think of it this way. Your brain has a default setting, like a radio station it always tunes into. If your default is tuned to the problem station, you'll constantly hear the same negative signals. Gratitude acts like a powerful tuning dial. It allows you to actively shift the frequency. You're not erasing the problem station. You're simply choosing to broadcast a different, more beneficial signal. The more you practice gratitude, the stronger that new signal becomes, and the easier it is to tune into it. Your brain, in its incredible adaptability, begins to reorganize itself, making these positive pathways more efficient and accessible. It's like building a superhighway to the appreciation section of your mental library, while the old, bumpy dirt road to the deficit section becomes less traveled. This isn't just a feel-good exercise. It's a fundamental rewiring of your neural architecture. This brings us to an unexpected twist, a paradox that often catches people by surprise. We tend to think of gratitude as something we offer when things are going well, as a reward for success. But the true power of gratitude, especially in leadership, lies in its application during difficult times. The very moment you feel the most overwhelmed, the most stressed, the most tempted to focus on what's wrong, is precisely when gratitude can be the most potent tool. Remember Sarah facing that critical bug. Her instinct, and perhaps yours too, might have been to focus solely on the problem, on the delay, on the potential fallout. But by choosing to express appreciation first, she didn't diminish the problem. She shifted her perspective and, more importantly, the perspective of her team member, to one of shared challenge and mutual support. The paradox is that by acknowledging the good, even in the midst of the bad, you actually empower yourself and others to tackle the bad more effectively. It's counterintuitive but true. You're not ignoring the storm, you're finding the sturdy shelter within it. This also helps us understand why focusing solely on problem solving can be so exhausting. When your mental library is dominated by the deficit books, you're constantly engaging with heavy, draining material. Every problem you solve just seems to reveal another and another. You're on a treadmill of negativity. Gratitude, by introducing those illuminated manuscripts, offers a respite, a source of energy, and a renewed sense of purpose. It's the fuel that allows you to keep running the race, not just to survive it. So, what about that unanswered question from earlier? We talked about the importance of specificity and consistency. But what happens when you've been practicing gratitude for a while and you still feel that underlying pressure, that nagging sense that there's more you could be doing? Is there a point where gratitude alone isn't enough? This is where the true subtlety of leadership emerges. Gratitude isn't a magic wand that makes all challenges disappear. It's a powerful amplifier, a catalyst, and a foundation. The real unanswered question isn't about whether gratitude works, but about how it integrates with other essential leadership qualities. It's about understanding that gratitude, when practiced authentically, doesn't negate the need for difficult conversations, for strategic planning, or for holding people accountable. Instead, it creates the fertile ground upon which these actions can be taken with greater effectiveness and less resistance. It's about building a reservoir of goodwill and trust that allows you to navigate the inevitable choppy waters with more grace and resilience. Think about it. If you've consistently shown appreciation for your team when you need to address a performance issue, that conversation will be heard differently. It won't be perceived as an attack, but as a constructive step within a relationship built on mutual respect. If you need to ask your team to make a significant sacrifice for a crucial project, their willingness to do so will be amplified by the knowledge that their efforts are recognized and valued. The power lies not just in the act of saying thank you, but in the genuine internal shift that accompanies it. It's the cultivation of a mindset where acknowledging the good becomes as natural as identifying the challenges. And this, my friends, is a journey, not a destination. The practice of gratitude is an ongoing process of tuning your mental radio, of curating your mental library, and of building a foundation of resilience that will serve you, your team, and your organization for years to come. The journey continues, and the most profound discoveries often lie just beyond what we can currently see. Let me tell you about Sarah. She was leading a small but incredibly talented software development team. They were working on a critical project with a very tight deadline, the kind that makes everyone's stomach clench just thinking about it. Weeks of intense work had passed, and the pressure was mounting. One evening, after a particularly frustrating day where a key feature refused to cooperate, the atmosphere in the office was thick with unspoken tension. People were snapping at each other, shoulders were hunched, and the usual camaraderie had evaporated. Sarah could feel the exhaustion seeping into everyone, including herself. She knew that continuing like this would lead to burnout and potentially compromise the quality of their work. Instead of calling an emergency meeting to berate them for the lack of progress, Sarah did something different. She gathered everyone in the small conference room, not to discuss the bugs or the delays, but to share something unexpected. She started by acknowledging the immense effort everyone had been putting in, truly seeing the long hours and the dedication. Then she shared a personal story about a time she felt completely overwhelmed and how a simple act of kindness from a colleague had shifted her entire outlook. She spoke about how that small gesture, that recognition, had given her the strength to push through. She then turned her attention back to the team, not with demands, but with appreciation. She specifically highlighted a few individuals and their contributions, not just the big wins, but also the quiet perseverance, the willingness to help a teammate, the innovative solutions to small but persistent problems. She pointed out how one developer, Mark, had stayed late 3 nights in a row to help debug a complex issue for another team member, even though it wasn't his direct responsibility. She noted how Emily had meticulously documented every single change, saving them hours of confusion later. She spoke about the collaborative spirit she had witnessed, even amidst the stress. Her voice was calm and genuine, filled with sincere admiration. The effect was palpable. The hunched shoulders began to straighten. The tension in the air started to dissipate, replaced by a quiet surprise, then a sense of relief. People looked at each other, not with annoyance, but with a newfound respect. The conversation shifted naturally. Instead of dwelling on what was going wrong, they started talking about what was going right, about the moments of shared problem-solving and the small victories they had overlooked. The meeting ended not with a list of action items for the bugs, but with a collective sigh of renewed energy and a shared understanding that they were in this together. The next day, the atmosphere was transformed. The same challenging tasks remained, the same deadline loomed, but the approach had changed. There was a noticeable increase in collaboration. Developers were proactively offering help to one another. When a new problem arose, instead of groans of despair, there were murmurs of, "Okay, how do we tackle this? And remember that trick we used last week? Let's try that." The energy was no longer draining, it was energizing. Sarah continued this practice. Every Friday, she would dedicate a few minutes at the end of their team meeting to acknowledge specific acts of excellence, acts of kindness, and acts of resilience. It wasn't about empty platitudes. It was about genuine observation and sincere appreciation. She made it a point to notice the small things, the often unseen efforts that contribute to the overall success of the team. She remembered that one time when David had stayed up all night to fix a critical server issue, and she made sure to publicly thank him for his dedication and the sleepless night he endured for the team. She praised Maria for her calm demeanor when a client was being particularly demanding, noting her professionalism and grace under pressure. The measurable result was significant. Within 3 weeks of implementing this consistent practice of gratitude, the team's productivity increased by approximately 20%. This wasn't a vague feeling. It was reflected in their project management software. The number of completed tasks per sprint went up, the bug resolution time decreased, and importantly, the team's morale scores, measured through anonymous surveys, saw a remarkable improvement. More than just the numbers, however, was the qualitative change. The team felt more cohesive, more resilient, and more motivated. They were no longer just individuals working on a project. They were a unit, supporting each other and working towards a common goal with a shared sense of purpose. Sarah's simple act of shifting the focus from problems to appreciation had unlocked a powerful force within her team. Now let's try to understand the mechanism behind this incredible shift. Imagine your brain is like a vast, ancient library. For most of us, especially in demanding professional environments, this library is heavily stocked with books about problems, challenges, and potential failures. These are the thick, heavy tomes, filled with intricate details about what could go wrong, what has gone wrong, and how to fix it. Every time you encounter a difficulty, you instinctively reach for one of these books. You analyze, you strategize, you troubleshoot. This is essential for survival and progress, of course. But what happens when these are the only books readily accessible on your shelves? When you practice gratitude, it's like discovering a secret, illuminated section of that library. These are not books that ignore the problems. Rather, they are scrolls filled with the vibrant, glowing ink of appreciation. They detail the moments of success, the acts of kindness, the resilience shown, the innovative solutions found, and the sheer effort invested. When you consciously engage with these scrolls, you're not just adding new books, you are actively reshelving your entire library. You are bringing the illuminated scrolls to the forefront, making them more accessible, more visible. When a new challenge arises, your brain, now accustomed to reaching for both the problem books and the illuminated scrolls, doesn't solely rely on the heavy tomes. It can now draw upon the energy and perspective offered by the scrolls of gratitude. This doesn't mean the problems vanish. It means your mental framework has expanded. You can acknowledge the difficulty, consult the relevant problem book, but you can also immediately access the scrolls that remind you of your capabilities, your past successes, the support systems in place, and the inherent good that exists within your team and yourself. This creates a powerful buffer, a reservoir of positive energy that allows you to approach challenges with greater equanimity and less dread. It's like having a backup power source, a generator of optimism, ready to kick in when the main grid of problem-solving feels strained. This new mental framework allows you to see the storm, yes, but also to recognize the sturdy, well-built shelter you and your team have already constructed. Here's where it gets truly interesting, the unexpected twist, the paradox that might make you rethink everything you thought you knew about gratitude. We've been talking about gratitude as a tool for leadership, as a way to boost morale and productivity. And it absolutely is. But the real power of gratitude, its most profound impact, lies not in what it does for others, but in what it does for you, the leader. The unanswered question from earlier was about what happens when you've been practicing gratitude and still feel that pressure. Is gratitude enough? And the answer, the paradox, is that gratitude isn't about eliminating the need for tough decisions or difficult conversations. Instead, it makes you more capable of having them. Think about it this way. When you've been diligently practicing gratitude, you've been building a powerful internal resilience. You've been cultivating a mental landscape where acknowledging the good is as natural as breathing. This doesn't mean you become a passive observer of problems. Quite the opposite. When you are genuinely grateful for your team's efforts, for their dedication, for their contributions, you build a deep well of trust and goodwill. This well is your most valuable asset when you need to address a performance issue. Instead of being perceived as a punitive measure, Your feedback is heard within the context of a relationship that has been consistently nurtured with appreciation. The difficult conversation becomes a conversation about growth, not about failure. Similarly, when you need to ask your team to go above and beyond, to make sacrifices for a critical project, their willingness to do so is amplified by the knowledge that their efforts are not taken for granted. They understand that their contributions are seen, valued, and deeply appreciated. This isn't manipulation, it's the natural consequence of authentic leadership. Gratitude, in this sense, doesn't soften the edges of leadership, it sharpens them. It allows you to be more direct, more decisive, and more impactful because the foundation of trust and mutual respect is so strong. The paradox is that by focusing on the positive, by acknowledging the good, you actually equip yourself to handle the negative with greater strength and less emotional drain. You are not avoiding the difficult parts of leadership. You are enhancing your capacity to navigate them with grace and effectiveness. The journey of gratitude, you see, is not about creating a problem-free environment. It is about building a leader who is robust enough, resilient enough, and respected enough to face any challenge head-on, not with fear, but with a quiet confidence born from a heart full of genuine appreciation. And that, my friends, is a leadership framework that can weather any storm. It's fascinating how often we misunderstand the very things that could bring us the most relief and strength. Gratitude, this simple yet profound practice, is often approached with a few common misconceptions. These aren't minor blips. They can significantly undermine the positive impact gratitude could have on your leadership and your life. Recognizing these pitfalls is the first crucial step towards truly harnessing its power. Many leaders, when they first hear about gratitude as a leadership tool, jump into it with a very specific and often misguided expectation. They believe that by simply saying thank you more often, their team will suddenly become more motivated and productive. They see it as a quick fix, a sort of motivational magic wand. This leads to the first common mistake, treating gratitude as a transactional exchange. You might find yourself saying thank you for a completed task, expecting an immediate surge in team spirit or a dramatic improvement in output. But if the gratitude isn't rooted in genuine appreciation for the effort, the skill, or the personal sacrifice involved, it can sound hollow. Your team members, especially those who are keenly observant, can sense the difference between a perfunctory acknowledgement and a heartfelt expression of thanks. It's like receiving a compliment that feels forced or insincere. It doesn't land with the same warmth or impact. This superficial approach can actually breed cynicism. When gratitude is used performatively, as a means to an end, it loses its authenticity. People start to feel like they're being managed rather than genuinely valued. They might even begin to question your motives, wondering if you're just going through the motions to achieve some desired outcome. This can erode trust, which is the very foundation you're trying to build with gratitude. The impact here is the opposite of what you intended. Instead of fostering connection, it creates distance and suspicion. The second mistake is believing that gratitude is only for the good times. Many people reserve their expressions of thankfulness for when everything is going perfectly, when projects are on time, and when results are exceeding expectations. They think, why express gratitude when things are tough? It might seem out of place or even naive. This is a critical oversight because it's precisely during challenging periods that gratitude can have its most potent effect. When your team is working through a difficult project, facing unexpected setbacks, or putting in extra hours to meet a deadline, that's when acknowledging their dedication becomes paramount. If you only offer praise when things are smooth, your team might feel that their hard work during the tough times goes unnoticed or is simply expected. They might start to think that their efforts are only truly seen when they align with a pre-existing plan of success. This can lead to a feeling of being unappreciated for their resilience and their commitment to seeing things through, even when the going gets rough. Imagine a scenario where a project is significantly delayed due to unforeseen external factors. The team has been pulling late nights, problem-solving creatively, and maintaining a positive attitude despite the pressure. If the leader at this point focuses only on the delay and the missed deadline, without acknowledging the immense effort and dedication of the team, it can feel demoralizing. The team might think, "We're giving it our all, but it doesn't seem to matter." We're still just seen as the reason things are behind schedule. This is a missed opportunity to reinforce their commitment and to show that their struggles are recognized and valued. The third mistake is confusing gratitude with complacency. Some leaders worry that by expressing gratitude too freely, they might inadvertently signal that mediocrity is acceptable. They might think, "If I thank everyone for doing their job, won't they stop striving for excellence? Won't they become comfortable with just meeting the minimum requirements?" This is a valid concern, but it stems from a misunderstanding of what authentic gratitude truly entails. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring areas that need improvement. It doesn't mean abandoning performance standards or accepting subpar work. Instead, it means acknowledging the effort and intent behind the work, even when the outcome isn't perfect. It's about separating the person from the performance and appreciating their contribution while still addressing performance gaps constructively. When you express gratitude for someone's effort, you are acknowledging their commitment and their willingness to engage. This creates a positive foundation upon which you can then discuss areas for growth and development. Consider a situation where an employee makes a mistake on a report. The immediate reaction might be to focus on the error. However, if the employee has a history of being diligent and has put in significant time and effort into preparing that report, a leader who understands gratitude would acknowledge that effort first. They might say, "I appreciate the time and care you put into compiling this data. I know you worked hard on this." Then they could follow up by saying, "There's a small error here in the calculations that we need to correct. Let's walk through it together so we can ensure accuracy moving forward." This approach validates the employee's effort while still addressing the mistake. It fosters a learning environment rather than a fear-based one. The alternative, of course, is to simply point out the error without acknowledging the effort. This can make the employee feel defensive and demotivated, potentially leading to them becoming more cautious and less willing to take initiative in the future. They might learn to avoid mistakes by doing the bare minimum, which is the opposite of fostering a high-performing team. So, how do we move beyond these common pitfalls and cultivate gratitude in a way that truly impacts our leadership? It requires a deliberate, structured approach. It's not about spontaneous outbursts of thankfulness. It's about building a consistent practice. I want to share a step-by-step method that has proven incredibly effective. This isn't a list of chores. It's a journey of cultivating a different way of seeing and interacting with your world. The first step in this method is to dedicate a specific time each day for reflection. This is your sacred time, a pause in the relentless march of your schedule. It doesn't need to be long, perhaps just 5 to 10 minutes. Find a quiet space where you won't be interrupted. This could be at the beginning of your workday, during your commute, or even just before you go to sleep. The key is consistency and intentionality. During this dedicated time, I want you to consciously shift your focus. Instead of dwelling on the problems you need to solve, the deadlines looming, or the challenges ahead, I want you to actively seek out the good. Start by thinking about 3 specific things you are grateful for from the past 24 hours. These don't have to be grand gestures or earth-shattering events. They can be small, everyday occurrences that often go unnoticed. Perhaps a colleague offered a helpful suggestion that saved you time. Maybe a team member went out of their way to assist another. It could be as simple as a moment of genuine connection with someone, a beautiful sunrise you witnessed, or even the comfort of a warm cup of coffee. The act of actively searching for these moments trains your brain to recognize them. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. As you identify each item of gratitude, I want you to go a little deeper. Don't just mentally tick it off, take a moment to truly savor it. Think about why you are grateful for it. What was the impact of that action? How did it make you feel? For instance, if you're grateful for a colleague's suggestion, consider how that suggestion saved you effort, reduced stress, or led to a better outcome. If you're grateful for a team member's help, reflect on the burden they lifted from someone else or the spirit of collaboration they fostered. This deeper reflection amplifies the positive emotions associated with gratitude. The second part of this step is to connect this personal gratitude practice to your leadership role. After you've identified your personal points of gratitude, I want you to deliberately think about your team. Who on your team deserves a specific acknowledgement today? Who went above and beyond, demonstrated exceptional effort, or contributed in a way that made a difference? This isn't about generating a generic list of good employees. This is about pinpointing specific actions, behaviors, or contributions that you genuinely appreciate. It requires you to be observant throughout your day. Pay attention to the small wins, the extra-mile efforts, and the moments of genuine dedication. Make a mental note or jot it down quickly if you prefer, so you can recall it during your reflection time. Then, during your reflection, articulate why you are grateful for that specific team member's contribution. What was the outcome? What was the impact on the team or the project? How did their action reflect positively on the team's values or goals? This detailed understanding allows you to move beyond a simple "good job" and offer feedback that is specific, meaningful, and impactful. The third step is to translate this internal reflection into external action. This is where the rubber meets the road, where your internal shift begins to influence your external interactions. Once you have identified specific instances of gratitude for your team members, you need to communicate them, and this communication needs to be authentic and timely. Don't wait for the next formal performance review or team meeting. If possible, express your appreciation as soon as you can after the event. A quick email, a brief in-person conversation, or even a message on your team's communication platform can be incredibly effective. The key is to be specific and genuine. When you speak to them, don't just say, "Thanks for your hard work." Instead, be precise. For example, you could say, "Sarah, I really appreciated you staying late last night to finish that report. I know it was a long day, and your dedication to getting it done accurately made a huge difference for the client presentation this morning." Or, "Mark, I noticed how you stepped in to help David when he was struggling with that technical issue." That kind of teamwork is exactly what makes our department so strong. The impact of this specific and timely communication is profound. It shows your team members that you are not just passively observing, but actively noticing and valuing their efforts. It reinforces the behaviors you want to see more of and strengthens their sense of belonging and purpose. This also helps to combat the misconceptions we discussed earlier. By being specific, you demonstrate that your gratitude is not superficial. By expressing it during challenging times, you show that you appreciate resilience. And by linking it to specific actions, you reinforce that it doesn't equate to complacency. Let me share a couple of quick examples of how this approach has led to tangible results. There was a leader, let's call her Maria, who managed a customer service team. Her team was experiencing high turnover, and morale was generally low. They felt like cogs in a machine, constantly dealing with difficult customers and rarely receiving positive feedback from management. Maria decided to implement this gratitude practice. Every day, she dedicated 10 minutes to reflecting. She started noticing the small acts of kindness between team members, the extra effort they put into de-escalating tense situations, and the creative solutions they found to customer problems. She began sending personalized emails to team members, thanking them for specific actions. For instance, She thanked one agent for patiently handling a particularly irate customer, noting how their calm demeanor diffused the situation and prevented a negative review. She thanked another for suggesting a new process that streamlined ticket resolution. Within 3 months, the impact was undeniable. Team members started proactively helping each other, knowing their efforts would be seen. The atmosphere in the office shifted from one of weary resignation to one of supportive collaboration. Customer satisfaction scores began to climb steadily, and most remarkably, employee turnover dropped by 20%. The team members felt seen, valued, and respected, which translated directly into better customer interactions and a stronger sense of loyalty. Another example involves a project manager named David. His team was responsible for developing a complex software feature that was falling behind schedule due to technical hurdles and scope creep. David was feeling the pressure from upper management, and his instinct was to push harder, to demand more from his team. However, he remembered the principles of gratitude. During his daily reflections, he focused on the ingenuity his team was demonstrating in overcoming the technical challenges. He acknowledged the late nights they were putting in, not with a sigh of exasperation, but with genuine appreciation for their commitment. He began having brief, one-on-one conversations with each team member. He didn't just ask for updates, he thanked them for their persistence. He specifically thanked one developer for finding an elegant solution to a persistent bug that had been plaguing them for weeks. He thanked another for their willingness to reevaluate the project scope with a positive attitude, even though it meant more work. The result was a remarkable shift in the team's energy. Instead of feeling like they were being blamed for the delays, they felt supported and understood. This renewed sense of purpose and appreciation motivated them to collaborate more effectively. They started brainstorming solutions together with more enthusiasm and less defensiveness. While the project still faced challenges, the team's ability to navigate them improved dramatically. They managed to deliver the core functionality of the software feature within a revised, realistic timeline, and the overall quality of the work was significantly higher. The impact was a successful project delivery and a team that felt empowered and resilient, not defeated. These examples illustrate the power of a consistent, authentic gratitude practice. It's not about grand gestures or forced positivity. It's about a deliberate, daily commitment to recognizing and appreciating the good, both in your own life and in the contributions of those around you, especially your team. Now for the crucial part. What is one single action you can take today to begin this journey? Not tomorrow, not next week, but right now in the next few hours. I want you to choose one person on your team, just one. Think about something specific they did today or even yesterday that you genuinely appreciated. It could be as simple as them holding a door open for someone, offering a helpful comment in a meeting, or completing a task with diligence. Then, I want you to find a way to express that appreciation to them directly and specifically. Send them a quick email, a message, or if you're in the same physical space, take a moment to walk over and tell them. Be specific about what you are thanking them for and why it mattered. For example, you could say, "Hi John, I just wanted to thank you for your input during the team meeting this morning. Your suggestion about reprioritizing that task really helped us clarify our next steps. I appreciate you speaking up." This single, focused action is your starting point. It's a tangible step that breaks the inertia and begins to build momentum. It's an experiment, a way to test the waters and experience the immediate positive impact of authentic appreciation. Don't overthink it, just pick one person and one specific thing. As you continue to practice this, day after day, you'll find that your perspective begins to shift. The challenges won't disappear, but your capacity to meet them will grow. You'll become more attuned to the positive contributions of your team, and they in turn will feel more connected, more motivated, and more loyal. Gratitude, when practiced consistently and authentically, transforms leadership from a position of authority into a partnership built on mutual respect and genuine appreciation. It's the quiet power that fuels enduring success and fosters a truly thriving environment. Keep practicing, keep noticing, and keep sharing your appreciation. The impact will ripple far beyond what you can imagine.